Our first session today is AI Rewriting the E-Commerce Playbook. Our speaker is Jason Seeba, CMO of Session AI. Please join me in welcoming Jason to the stage.
Thank you for coming out. Excited to be here. We have 20 minutes to go through all things AI. And if you have been in any other sessions, you probably have already heard AI. I've been told at our booth that no one wanted to hear anything more about AI. But we'll see what we can do. Hopefully we can get through a few things. The idea here is we're going to walk through what's going on in AI overall. We're going to talk about AI and how it relates to e-commerce and how it's changing. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about real-time kind of session AI, like what's happening in a session and how that technology works. And so let's jump into it. So this is a picture of San Francisco when you're flying out. I just wanted to talk about what's going on in the Bay Area. Since we're out here in New York, the energy is back in the Bay Area. There's meetups. I got an email from a founder that built a always-on recording device that takes 24-hour audio, records everything, transcribes it to you for your whole life with a little battery, and they did it in a hackathon over a weekend. It's crazy what's going on kind of out there in the world, in the wild, and it's changing a lot. And it's going to change not only our jobs, how people buy, and how we sell. And so I just wanted to talk about the renewed energy there. People were moving back from Austin to San Francisco when everyone was leaving California a little while ago. So now, there's a lot going on here. I'm based in Mountain View, kind of in the shadow of Google. And so I wanted to just talk about why does it even matter and why am I able to even talk to you about AI? For me, AI is pretty personal. I've actually had the opportunity to work in a couple different AI companies and then also have been able to roll out AI and create some transformation in our organizations. And so for rolling it out, I had the opportunity to actually roll out AI with an AI predictive model when we were selling to a large number of companies in a B2B company. And we were able to listen to that model. We listened to kind of the data and saw who we sold to, and we predicted who would be essentially a good customer and who wouldn't be. And then we let that model run for 6 months. And we saw that the data really bared out, and we were able to actually change our acquisition model and save 30% on our acquisition costs for an entire company that had been around for about 10 years. And so really saw the actual benefit of AI in our go-to-market. And then on the other hand, too, I've had the opportunity to work for a couple different AI companies. I was with a company, you probably saw them down here, Bloomreach, for 5 years when they were kind of early on. And then also the technical co-founder of that company built another company called Eightfold. We raised $350 million to match people to jobs using AI. And so what it does is the technology actually predicts where people will go in their career and then matches jobs to where people will go in their potential, which is actually pretty interesting. It's really kind of a world-changing algorithm you'll see a lot of impact with. And so there's a lot of things out there in the world about where AI is going and whether it's good, whether it's bad. But I think really it's inevitable, right? And so that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, so let's jump in. So it costs a lot of money to train these large foundational language models. And so you can see, it costs over $100 million to train the new Gemini Ultra model. It's growing exponentially. Something to kind of note here is Microsoft is trying to build a supercomputer with OpenAI. And when they were trying to figure out where to put this thing, they looked at a bunch of states, and the concern was that the computer itself and the energy that's needed to run the computer actually would take down the power grid in 26 states where they were looking at it. So to get an idea of the scale of what's going on here, it's an energy and compute play. And so I think it's very fashionable to talk about how Google doesn't get it right and the results are crappy. But when it comes down to it, the compute is going to win. And so just to get an idea of what it's going to cost to train these models, $100 million, $200 million, $500 million, you'll see coming. So to get a picture of these large language models, and there's lots of different flavors of AI, right? But the large foundational language models are what a lot of these startups are built on. Thought another kind of interesting thing, this is actually a tweet that got deleted from an OpenAI engineer, and it's talking about how to train these models, right? So if you've heard about reinforcement learning, the idea here is you actually train it on human data, but there's a whole picture of where things are going where they're going to train models based on actually training the AI, getting learning from the AI, and then getting the reinforcement to that, as opposed to just training it on existing human data. And so when you think about kind of intelligence growing exponentially, it's really about actually training the output of the models themselves, as opposed to just training on existing data. And so when you think about, like, just intellectually, when you think about this idea, it's, when we think about our workers and how our work is going to change, right now we're talking about having kind of infinite, let's say, not that great workers. But what happens when we have workers that are as good as a PhD in any area, right? Who can like compute, can actually think, can actually move data and analyze things? It's going to get pretty interesting pretty quickly. In the same vein, we're talking about like where are these kind of capabilities changing and growing? You can see like reading comprehension, image recognition, they're all happening at a human level now. And right now, predictive reasoning is just about to hit human level. And so this is what's coming, right? So I think there is a level of that we're kind of underestimating the long-term impact of where this is going to go for our jobs and our careers. And so out of Stanford, they did a survey actually earlier this year. And it's interesting, already more than half of people think that their job is going to change in the next 5 years. But I thought what was really crazy is that more than a third of people are saying their job is going to get replaced in the next 5 years, right? And so it's already, like, people are already thinking about this, right? So I think now we need to think about how does this actually affect e-commerce. I'm a nerd for cassettes. This is an old boombox that I bought off Facebook Marketplace. They're really awesome. It was broken, and I didn't know what to do, so I asked Perplexity, like, how do I fix this thing? And so I took it apart, and the videos that they showed me and how to do it, AI helped me like actually fix this. So I got this sweet boombox that I get to listen to my Japanese hip hop mixtapes on. So this is, it's just, you can learn anything, right? And so it's really the intelligence is you and the machine, right? And that's where things are going. And I think what's going to change really is how we interact not only with products for product discovery, but also product purchase. And so I actually have here, this is a Rabbit R1. So this was like essentially like the hottest device at CES this year, and it kind of got made obsolete on Monday. So, which is kind of a bummer. Apple, I don't know if anyone saw, but Apple just did these huge announcements on Monday about bringing AI kind of into the workflow, into the iPhone. And so it's essentially moving AI from the nerds to my mom, right? I mean, really, this is like what's happening in real time. And so this device actually sold 10,000 units the first day, and then 10,000 the next day. They sold 50,000 of them in a week, right? And so there's a real hunger. These kind of, and this is an AI assistant that sits in your pocket. You talk to it. There's a camera in there. It's just a very unique kind of niche-y device that it's just all AI enabled, but it's coming to your iPhone soon. Okay, so let's talk about how this affects AI, how it affects e-commerce. So when you want glasses, you're gonna in the future just ask your assistant like, hey, I want these glasses. You're not gonna go to an AI, you're not gonna go to an e-commerce site. You're not gonna go to a Google search engine result page. You're gonna just say, hey, I want these glasses, figure it out for me, right? So you think about how that would affect your business when that's coming. Now let's talk about what happens today, kind of tomorrow and soon for both product discovery and product purchase. And so today, people are starting on search engines. Tomorrow, they're gonna ask an assistant, right? They're gonna say, hey, like I need X product. And in the future, they're gonna say, hey, I know you. I'm gonna recommend to you proactively what you need. And so I talked about Japanese hip hop mixtapes. Like they're gonna show me cassettes that I care about that, believe me, no one else cares about. When it comes to purchase, people are already starting on e-commerce sites, but ultimately you're gonna say, hey, I wanna take action, and it will negotiate for you with an AI agent, right? You're gonna have an agent that will go out and buy things for you, and ultimately in the future, for example, like you'll never wanna think, the way I think about it is you'll never wanna think about soap again, right? You're gonna say, soap, I don't wanna think about it, I like this type of soap, this is how much I'm willing to pay for it, I'll let you know if I have too much, I'll let you know if I have too little, and just take care of it for me. It doesn't matter which site, I just wanna make sure that it's here for me. And it's another level of kind of disintermediation in the buying process. All right, let's look at some brands and kind of what they're doing. Walmart, I think, is pretty interesting. They're putting together bundles, kind of Gen AI bundles based on different categories. So you might have like a Barbie-themed birthday party, and they will actually organize sets of products for you based on AI. Verizon actually uses Session AI's technology to go in and nudge visitors who need an extra push in the purchase funnel. And then H&M is using these smart mirrors in their fitting rooms to do virtual try-ons, right? And these are all ways that people are using generative AI and also behavioral AI to make an impact. This is kind of the duh slide in the whole presentation, but 97% of companies are considering using AI, but already 50% of people are already experimenting with it. And so I think you're going to see that companies that are not doing this are really going to get left behind. And so really you have to have a story for what you're doing with AI this year. How are people using it already? These are the areas where people are using AI already in e-commerce. You're seeing product recs are really picking up. We've seen essentially churn prediction, fraud detection. I think companies like Signified are really interested in making an impact in that area. In-session marketing, like what Session AI does, where we actually predict purchase intent. Also generating content, right? I think there's a lot of people trying to fill in the gaps in product catalogs and in search results. And just to give a bit of a ranking, this is some Salesforce data of where it's already making an impact. It's really happening in the customer experience. You're seeing product discovery, and then personalization still is lagging a bit behind some of those other areas. And also adoption, also there's challenges, right? And so I think one of the big things is people have ideas about what they want to do with AI. It's interesting, security and trust is still at the top, but you look at the bottom, these are initiatives that are getting prioritized now, right? Deprioritization is not the biggest issue at this point. It really is, like, do you have a great strategy? Do you have the data to make an impact? All right, so let's talk about what's going on in the world now too. While there's all this change with AI, the world is getting more and more anonymous, right? So Google, Apple, Meta, they're all limiting data, right? And let's say, I don't know that it's necessarily sometimes it's looked at to be very altruistic, to be kind of not giving access to customer data, but I think it's really a power game between these large players of like who's gonna win. Obviously restrictions are getting deeper. People have the option to not reveal themselves too. And so I think we're all dealing with in this room, it's just making conversion harder for everyone. And there's really kind of a breakdown of like anonymous users and known users, right? And really, most people are looking at, anywhere from 70 to 90% of their users being anonymous. And then you have, your CDP projects, your CRM projects, personalization, that's all really focused on the known user. And there really is this kind of untapped opportunity in anonymous, and there wasn't really technology to do much with this segment up to this point. What we're doing at Session AI, I'll talk a little bit about that, is behavioral AI that's actually in real time that actually unlocks the value for these anonymous users. What we're able to do is we actually predict the likelihood to purchase in 5 clicks. So no customer data at all. It's just looking at how people walk through the site and how they move through the site or the app. And then we're able to predict essentially who will buy, who won't buy, and who's on the fence, right? And so if you can think about kind of the use cases that come up when you have these segments in real time, one of the things with AI is that personalizations, a lot of it is rules-based, right? A lot of it is trying to connect people to the right product based on what they've done or what history you have on them. But there's so many people where you actually have nothing on them, right? They show up, you've done a paid search campaign, you have tons of people hitting the site, but you don't know what they want. You need to actually treat them differently. And so if someone's really likely to buy, maybe you suppress offers, maybe you drive upsell. If they're on the fence, you repurpose essentially your resources toward those people because you can actually understand that they're influenceable in the moment and you can take action on them. And the people who are unlikely to buy, maybe you nurture them, maybe you try to drive them in store with a specific offer. So let's just walk through a quick case study. This is a auto parts retailer that we work with, and this is their first year. And so this is a breakdown of how their promotions were spent. And so they came to us, there was a mandate from the CEO to get less promotional. They were giving away 19 cents on every dollar. And so it was like massively discounting, right? So there was kind of coupons stacking on top of coupons, and they needed to get less promotional. I think this is a journey that a lot of companies are. Some companies don't run any promotions, but there's a lot of people that are using promotions as kind of a heavy trigger or a heavy tool to get conversion. And so if you look at the breakdown, they spent about $105 million a year on promo spend. And you can see at the bottom, $83 million of that $105 million were going to people who were already going to buy, right? And so those aren't all promos that happen in the session, but they might be things where they're running them, outside of the website to drive people to the website. And what we were able to do is we were able to reduce their promo spend 35%, which meant they saved $40 million to the bottom line in the first year. So if you think about this, the power of just having AI and understanding people with their behavior, just very simply in the session can drive just massive impact. And so this is one example. This is just one use case also for this type of technology. I think what this is happening is this is an unlock for companies to actually run lots of new kind of marketing campaigns and plays because you had nothing to do in real time, right? You've set up, a lot of times people are trying to match people to their personas with CDP or trying to personalize, but this is really about like how are you actually like reflexive in the moment with these people. All right, so this is some of the things you can do. Dynamic discounts, bundling offers, actually reducing inventory quickly. So you might not want to discount and put things on clearance, but you can actually, if you have people who are on the fence, you can actually push inventory to them in real time to essentially reduce inventory while it's at a higher price, right? So you can actually maintain your margin. Then you obviously can increase overall conversion. All right, and so the last bit of this is just about how do you actually get change in your own organization. And so for me, like I'm a marketing technologist at heart, and so I bought a lot of, over the years I bought a lot of technology and tried to figure out how to do this in organizations. And I think this is, so Jenna, who's here, you probably saw her around, she actually just left Solo Brands, but she's really been influential in her organizations, like bringing in technology. And so one of the things that she talked about is really demystifying AI. For them, I think a lot of people are not really understanding that they're already using AI all throughout the stack, right? So when people kind of talk about AI, they might get nervous. Are there legal issues? Are there things around this that are problems? I think a lot of times, especially even at the board level, you need to like help people through the process of saying, hey, this is new, but we already use it. We already are using AI throughout, essentially throughout our stack. And then with Mike, I went to Mike's session yesterday. It was awesome. And he talked about, on a webinar earlier this year with us, talked about actually reducing, that these are all concepts that everyone's talking about, right? So it's lowering CapEx, being able to actually drive impact, and those are what people want to talk about at the boardroom, right? Everyone's under more pressure to sell, and this is a way to actually get some leverage there. And so we talked about at the beginning kind of that untapped opportunity in Anonymous. So behavioral is one way to do this, but other AI technologies really will help kind of bridge that gap when when you really need to drive impact. All right, so we wanted to talk about takeaways. And so there were 3 takeaways that we want to talk about, but I highlighted one first here, and that really is the story that you have to have for AI. So I think the number one takeaway really is you really have to have a story for AI this year. The second takeaway really is I think we're actually underestimating the impact of AI long-term on society. And so there's actually a great book, The Coming Wave, written by the founder of DeepMind. I definitely recommend it. If you want to scan, that just is to my LinkedIn. So if you want to send me a message, I can send you a link to the book. It's just super interesting. It's been something that we've read and we've shared with our customer advisory board as well. I think it's something that if you want to like think about where things are going, both politically and just technologically, it's really good. Last takeaway really is how you can, I really think people can drive their careers with new technology. And so really actually taking a risk and taking the leap to bring in new tech, it's actually not technologically always hard to bring into the technology. It's actually the change associated with that in your organization. We touched on it a little bit with the quotes in the end, but I really think you can like actually make an impact in your career by bringing in new technologies and making them successful. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Please feel free to connect and we'll talk soon. Thanks.